Tēnā koe te whare, kia ora mā tātou, tēnā tātou katoa. Members, before the dinner break we were debating the votes Arts, Culture and Heritage, vote Internal Affairs, vote Māori Development, vote Pacific Peoples, vote Sport and Recreation, vote Statistics, vote Treaty Negotiations and vote Women. And Matua Pita Paroni had the call, all but 4 seconds of it was cast in the pre-dinner break, but he has 4 minutes and 56 seconds remaining should he wish to avail himself.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Can I ask for the 4 seconds to be added on to my lot, because I had difficulty understanding from your predecessor his pronunciation of my name, and I took time to correct him.
Well, I hope that you haven't had that problem with me. You have 4 minutes and 56 seconds remaining.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Chairman. Reluctantly, I'll have to accept that. But before the dinner break, and the speaker before me, you know, he took a bit of a hissy at the comments that my leader had made, and quite clearly he took them out of context. Because reverting to diversions and straw men in some vain attempt to avert attention from gross expenditure items to individual treaty settlement negotiations simply won't do. And what Mr. Peters was referring to, and he didn't name any names, other than to say that 2 of the negotiators had received in excess of $1 million during the period of their tenure as negotiators. And that was the only comment that he made. And if people want to know the details of what each negotiator got, I'm quite prepared to table that. But that's public knowledge, so I don't need to do that. Mr. Speaker, I want to focus particularly on the area of whānau order. And that was some discussion during the review of the Māori Affairs portfolio. And right from the outset, New Zealand First has had some doubts about the program and how that fund has been used. And I want to say that in the 2015-16 budget, $50 million was added to whānau order program. Now, the question I'm asking this House, and perhaps the Minister may be able to give me some answer, is that in terms of receiving that $50 million for this program, no evidence, no application was actually made for the funds. Now, if I was an operator in another public ministry, I would certainly be asking, why is it that if I want extra money for my ministry, I have to put up a case for it? And yet, for the Māori development, they get that extra money without any evidence as to justifying the need for that extra money. The other thing that came out during the review, when asked of the officials what was the major task in order for whānau order to progress onwards. And the answer was that they needed to inform the public as to what whānau order was all about. Now, we found that quite surprising, given that this program has been around for some time. And here we have officials having to tell us that the public aren't quite sure about what whānau order is all about. And I just want to have it on record, Mr. Chairman, that this is, I think, pandering to the wishes of a particular political party, rather than looking at the issues and whether or not whānau order is a program that justifies extra funding without a proper case being put to have that extra money. Also want to say, Mr. Chairman, that in advancing whānau order, I note that the Ministry of Health has put together some comparisons in terms of some of the programs that the Health Ministry is responsible for, and I need to say that whānau order providers compare very, very well to general providers. So in some respects, that is a good point for whānau order to carry on. But at the end of the day, what our concern is from New Zealand First is whether or not that funding that has been allocated to that program is properly administered. And as we all know in this House, that if funds aren't properly administered, then the whole program falters. And we certainly don't want to see that under our watch. Mr. Speaker, in terms of the treaty settlements, I just want to make the comment that while a number of settlements have been made, not necessarily...
Mr. Chairman.
I call the Honourable